The original agenda was having their own piece in it. Oh, minutes.
That makes so sense. I was figuring out why they didn't match. Makes sense. Thank you.
You're not there yet either, so you may join the privileged ones like Sarah or the.
All of one's working.
That's not gonna go fast, it's not. Yeah. Before we go down, oh, they're being recorded, so fine.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February. We have fun here at the Orono Town Council. Welcome to the Monday, February 24th meeting of the Orono Town Council. Roll call shows that we have a full complement. We have Councilor Baker, Councilor Powers, Councilor Kenny, Councilor Demerit, Councilor Powers, Councilor Marks, Councilor Hardison, but we don't have Councilor Larway yet. I haven't heard from him on his plans for this evening. And our town manager, Clint DeShan, is taking some personal time away from the office. So we have Mitch Stone, our assistant town manager, is as expected, sitting in for him at the end of the dais. The second item on our agenda is always agenda review, where we list out the items that have been referred to committee. And for the public and for reminders for the council and staff, we also ask at this point if there are any additions that anyone would like to add to the council agenda. And those require a unanimous agreement to add something at this point to an agenda. Councilor Baker?
Yes, there wasn't anything attached, but the names of 2538 and 2539. No, they're not. Of 39 and 40 are the exact same.
Where are we?
2539 and 2540.
Oh,
Duplicate.
nope, they're not duplicate. One is the.
Are you on the mic, please?
I'm not, sorry. So 2539 is the draft town council 360-degree performance survey, and 2540 is the draft town manager 360-degree performance survey. So there's just one word difference there.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to item. Sorry, I have two different copies here. Move on to item 3 for approval of minutes of February 10th, 2025. I'll take a motion.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Signify by.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
Oh, perfect. We have 4 approvals, 2 abstains. And so the minutes are approved. Item number 4 is public comment. This is an opportunity to provide the Orono Town Council with feedback. This is for anything that's not on our agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to join us for public comment this evening? Hi, welcome. If you please introduce yourself
Yes.
and push the button.
Light was on. Hi, my name is Erin Lanigan. I have been a resident here for almost 20 years. And I live on Stillwater Avenue, and I would like to bring to your attention a problem that I believe is becoming more and more dangerous. When I moved here originally, Stillwater Avenue was used by as a back road by locals only. I was here for the roundabout improvement, which I appreciate very much as it has absolutely cut down on accidents. And I would also like to add and express my appreciation for the attention and long hours spent working on Main Street by all of you. Since living here, the amount of traffic that uses Stillwater has grown. Not 45 seconds go by during the day in which a car usually comes from Bangor, often followed by a line of 7 or 8 cars. At night before 2 a.m., that time lapse goes to about a minute and a half on average. There are no pull-offs. There is no side on the road. Bikers and walkers are not safe, and I have taught 2 children to no longer turn left into our driveway, but to go around the roundabout and come back to make it a right turn. Unfortunately, even that is not safe anymore, as just this morning, a very large, big black truck passed me on a double yellow line to avoid slowing down. There is a school bus pickup across the street from my house, and it is right after a curve. Although my children are grown now, I made the choice never to allow them to use the school bus after my youngest and I almost got hit standing in our own driveway while giving my elder son a ride on the school bus one morning. My neighbors have been hit from behind trying to turn left into their driveway, as well as multiple rear-ending accidents, many that did not result in police contact. The new apartment building has not increased traffic. It has, however, increased the likelihood that somebody will get hit. I have 2 suggestions. Either lower the speed limit to 35 on Stillwater Avenue. This is the one thing that we can control as a town on a highway managed road. I understand that it does not control how fast people drive. My hope is that speeding would become 45 instead of 65, and that most people would choose to drive 35 or take the highway, which is what I think they are trying to avoid, in my layman opinion. Most people who are driving through are not local drivers. They are driving from Bangor to Old Town or beyond, which I know as I have often followed the car I pulled out behind all the way through to Old Town. We see semis coming through and business vehicles daily. It takes an equal amount of time to drive from Walmart on Hogan Road to the freeway entrance as it does to drive the entirety of Stillwater to the Stillwater exit at IGA. 8 minutes, in case you were wondering. The second option is a bit more expensive, but what we can choose to promote Stillwater Avenue as a thoroughfare. This would not be my choice, but I am willing to consider it. This would require the highway department, involving the highway department and widening the road, giving folks an option to pull off in order to avoid an accident. It would also help address the flooding that seems to be increasing all along Stillwater, not just down by the bog, as well as allowing bikers and pedestrians to use the road safely. I understand that choosing to live outside of town limits is a choice that comes with fewer services. We choose to use a well and have a septic. We choose not to have sidewalks and not to have neighbors that we can access easily. I'm not asking for any of those things to be addressed. I am trying to make you aware of what I consider a highly dangerous situation that, although it has not resulted in a death yet, it will. I would like for the council to consider Stillwater as a danger it is and act accordingly. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for those comments. Are there any other public comments for the council? Okay. Thank you for that. Next up on our agenda is item 5, presentation discussion items. We're going to have a discussion presentation on the 360-degree evaluation process led by the Nominations, Evaluations, and Council Policies Committee. Councilor Marks?
Thank you. I think that you all have seen on council the documentation that came around on this topic with the agenda. I'm going to ask in a minute for Cody to go ahead and put the report up on the screen so we can scroll through a little together and make sure if there's questions, people have time to ask them. Before that, I just wanted to highlight that the first item attached is a memo from our town manager who was not able to be here today, but who is part of the NECAP committee. He is the staff liaison to NECAP and participated in all of the meetings that led to the recommendation document that you've all received. Cody, you want to go ahead and put it up on the screen? Thank you. The first part of this really just highlights for everyone the process. The NECAP committee met 5 times. That includes, if you go up, it's a little higher up, Cody, way up at the top. We met 5 times. That includes myself, Councilor Laraway, and Councilor Baker, and Clint Deshan, our town manager. We also did ask for written recommendation memos. The first of these, the full council received from Dr. Berthasol back in September when she was still serving on council. So that already has gone to the council before, but it's reattached here with her recommendations as a data analyst herself. She did the analysis of our data collected in surveys for our town manager search. And she kindly did that as she was stepping down from council as a free service to us to just pass on her research and recommendations. And then we had an addendum attached from Superintendent Higgins and the board president McGill for the RSU. And also Clint spoke in person with Meredith. They had a personal conversation. The following part after this, we're going to scan through quickly unless anyone has specific questions. This is a list of principles that over our 5 meetings and reading these various reports and talking with each other as a committee, we kept track as we were going of various recommendations that made sense to us that we wanted to agree would be principles that we would follow as we were making the recommendations out to council. So I think you can, unless council has any questions on those, I think those are just the underlying assumptions we were basing our schedule recommendations and process recommendations off of. And they come from those other reports along with conversations in the committee. Everyone feel good to actually move beyond that, council-wise? Okay. Then if we get to the first council vote, this is being presented to you in a series of votes. As we worked on this, we realized there were a series of questions council needed to answer. I guess I should start by saying that it's in our town manager's contract that we will conduct 360 performance surveys of both the town manager and ourselves. That's a commitment that we made when we hired him, both to him and to the community, that we would engage in that process. So we were asked as a committee to come back to the full council with a recommended schedule and process for how to do that. So in these pages here, you will see a written breakdown of the steps we're recommending for each survey, the town manager performance survey and the town council performance survey. If you go to the next page is the one I'm really looking for, Cody, with the grid. I think this is the easiest way to see how those steps fit together. They overlap a bit. I would like to point out that the schedule in the fall is what we are recommending to council for a variety of reasons, because we felt, and it was in the recommendations from the International City and County Managers Association, ICMA, that we not conduct surveys until the town manager had been here a full year, which will happen this summer. Also, in various sources, recommended that the performance survey that goes out to staff and the community in a full 360 performance survey not happen at the same time that council is doing its formal evaluation where we set salary. So the recommendation was to separate those by 6 months, to run the performance survey in the fall, which is when we do a 6-month check-in with our town manager, and not to run it in the spring, which is when we do our formal evaluation of the town manager, write a formal evaluation letter for his file, and set salary. So most of this schedule was built off of those stipulations. In order to do that and to get the surveys done in the fall, this was the schedule that worked. As you can see, there's more meetings that happen after the town manager survey because those discussions have to happen in executive session. They are confidential personnel information when it's regarding an employee. So there's a series of executive sessions that would be recommended. The first one would be for the council to meet without the town manager in executive session to discuss the performance survey response data, and also to organize our own 6-month feedback on the town manager's performance. Then at a different date, a second meeting in October, there'd be a second executive session with the town manager to jointly discuss those responses. And in between, the survey data would have been delivered to the town manager at least a week before that discussion. So that looks, it's a few more meetings. When you look on the council side, council survey data is public information, and it will be talked about in a public council meeting. There don't have to be a series of executive sessions and personnel rules followed. The raw survey data is recommended to go out to the counselors, and then council looks at that data, and then we have an open council meeting discussion where we each talk out loud about what we took from that survey data and what we're learning about how the community and the staff and everyone feels like we're doing on the promises that we made. So this is just the schedule. This is not looking at what the surveys would look like. And the first vote would really be to accept this schedule and process. Anyone have questions on the schedule? It's up on the screen up there too, up high. I guess I should point out that it was suggested that it would be important not to talk about the survey data in public until after the November election, because we wouldn't ever want to be seen in any way to be trying to influence an election by any discussion that was happening. So that is actually why we're doing the town manager survey first, because those discussions happen in executive session behind closed doors, whereas the town council survey happens in an open meeting, and we wouldn't want to have that meeting until after the election.
I had one observation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council Marks, and thank you to the committee for all the work that went into this. I had a question about, more an observation under the schedule where we talk about the town manager salary is set as part of an annual budget process. The manager's salary is set by contract agreement. So this would be, and I don't want to create the impression that this would be an opportunity to in any way disadvantage the town manager as part of a process, but in terms of like COLA adjustments or performance-based adjustments, this would be an opportunity for us to have those conversations. So.
Thank you, Dan, for that important clarification. I also think it's important to note that we were told in our committee discussions by staff that typical practice is to put into our proposed budget the same kind of COLA increase that's happening for other staff on the town manager line. And then as these discussions happen later, that might be adjusted up or down, but that's not the intention. The intention is that, that will be part of that process. Does that help? Okay, Leo, question?
Yes. Thanks for all this. You guys have done a ton of work on this, so appreciate that. So this isn't on the schedule, so maybe I shouldn't, but I am trying to understand, is the whole anonymous piece is kind of strange for me. I understand it, but at the same time, it feels like it opens people, specifically, I guess, the town manager, up to people that would take pop shots and not be identified. So, but I don't think there's any way around it, I guess. And I think that's how the school's doing it with the superintendent and the council, correct? It just feels a little funny to me that anybody or nobody, who knows?
Yeah.
But, they're supposed to identify what their connection is to the town. So there's that piece, but that's it. So, so that's a little strange for me, and there's no probably changing it, but I just want to put that out there. The other thing, my other question is and it's probably in here, sorry, I didn't probably devour the 39 pages, so.
It's okay.
For council, it's good, I think that we do it after the November. Is the raw data public information at that point?
Yes, technically, all council survey data is public information if anyone were to ask for it. I can tell you that the school told me that they had that happen at one point, and there is a small exception to that, which is that if that data were ever asked for by a member of the public, we would need to pay a personnel HR person to go through that and make sure that any reference that happened to be put in the council survey that had to do with a staff member was deleted out before that information could ever be shared out publicly, because staff information is private. So if somebody it's a council survey, but if somebody didn't follow the rules and wrote something about a staff member in there, that by law can be taken out before that data is shared out publicly. Does that make sense, Leo?
Yeah, and I'm completely open to anybody that shows up, and we know we're up here and can be talked about here, but there, again, that's a little bit of anybody can, an anonymous person could put something in about a council member, and there it sits, and then someone comes and requests it, and there it is. So that's a little, I don't know, not unsettling, but it seems like it could be misused to me.
I hope it's not. We did ask the schools if they've had trouble with that, and they haven't particularly had that. They certainly would say that, as everyone knows, when you do 360 performance surveys, and they are anonymous by nature, you assume that people tend to respond to those more on the extremes, when they're very happy about something and when they're very unhappy about something. It's kind of human nature. So it's important that when that data is read, it's taken with a grain of salt. If one person says something, that is probably not something that you take super seriously. But if 10 to 15 people say it, then you say, okay, this might be a real concern. Lots of people are expressing it. There's a different gradation of how input is received. And it is certainly the job of council, and other people on committee should speak also. I mean, I guess Rob's not here, but it is certainly the job of council with the town manager survey to do that, to look at that data with a clear eye that, things don't have the same import if they come from one person as if they come from many. And that data is 100% private. That data goes nowhere outside of an executive session. Our town manager is a staff person just like everybody else and has the same personnel protections. And that's extremely important to protect.
Okay.
Can I go
Sure.
quickly through the rest? This, I think, is not maybe as complicated. We'll see. The second vote on your page, it's up there, is saying that when our town manager's contract was written, we did not yet have this information and recommendations that the 360 performance survey part should be at a different time of year from the spring when we're doing our budget and salary setting decisions. So the language written in here didn't reflect that. It seemed to indicate that we would be doing them all at the end of the fiscal year. So in that process, we worked as a committee with our town manager. You'll see on section D, it says that this section of the town manager's contract can be updated in writing and by agreement of both parties to reflect changes in the town's ordinances or the policies of the town or the town council. So based on that language, we have the ability as a council with the town manager's agreement to take a vote to amend the contract language. And that is a separate attachment. I don't know if you can switch, Cody. It's a third attachment, I believe, on the agenda, which has the suggested new language, which accounts for the separation of the performance survey, the 360 survey in the fall, from the formal evaluation in the spring. This language is on the agenda. It has gone out to council 10 days ago. It has been reviewed by our town manager, and you've received a memo from him saying that he's comfortable with this language change. So one of the votes you'll see tonight is to vote to amend the contract accordingly. Any questions on that? Okay. Thanks, Cody, for switching back and forth. Then if we go back to the other document, the third and fourth votes, this is the thing that Jacob highlighted at the beginning. They look almost identical, but they are slightly different votes. In one, you're being asked to approve the draft town manager performance survey. And in the other, you're being asked to approve the draft town council performance survey. These surveys, we spent quite a bit of time, Jacob, you could attest, quite a lot of time looking at these surveys and really closely at what the questions should be based on the recommendations from ICMA, from Dr. Berthesel, from the experiences shared from the RSU. And we really followed what's listed here, that we took the town council goals that had been set. We took the town manager's work plan. We took the results from the town manager survey data a year ago, where the community told us which specific criteria they were really looking for in a town manager. And so what we're asking the community for feedback on is whether we are, for our town manager, how the community and staff feel like he's living into these leadership qualities that the community was asking for when he was hired, and also commitments made in his own work plan. And again, he has been part of developing that survey and looking at those questions and indicated that he feels they are the right ones for us to be evaluating. And on the town council, they are based off of our goals we set for this fiscal year and our 2 resolutions. So in an addendum, you guys have the detailed surveys, each of them, and we can scroll down to that. But more here, I just wanted you to know this was the process and what we based those questions off of. We did not make them up. We did not make up any of them. We took them off commitments that the council had made in our work plan. and our commitments to the community, and we took them off of what the community had asked for and what's in the town manager's work plan. And the ICMA, I should say, the community had been asked to respond to ICMA leadership qualities. And they picked the top 6. So they came from ICMA, the International City and County Managers Association. And then the community picked which 6 were most important to this community. All right, questions on that and how those were developed?
I thought they were excellent and detailed, and I wanted to ask if you thought, when we vote tonight, is there still room after we vote to potentially talk about the order of the questioning and things like that? Like I thought maybe
Sure.
the council goals that we have for the 24-25 municipal year should be closer to the top.
Sure.
Okay.
I think that there will be multiple points where we could have feedback, but now would be a good time. So if there is feedback like that, like I would like to see the goals, for 2025 at the top, and the commitments to the Your Voice Matters and the Orono stops further down. I think that's fine. We can take any feedback now. I think there will be time in the future. These are a draft, and depending on how council votes, it's possible we'll be having our human resources consultant take a look at them, and perhaps another consultant. So there is room to move them right up until they go out. Also, things in a community change. So if there were some huge event that happened and the town manager had to take a big pivot and direct a lot of his attention somewhere else, we would want to account for that. I know that happened during COVID, and the schools rewrote what was on the survey because they were all of a sudden dealing with COVID, which they hadn't predicted to be dealing with. So there is time right up until the survey goes out. But I do think now is a fine time, if there's something someone wants added or rearranged, to let me know. Or
Just
let us know.
Do you have concerns that if we do make a, well, I would suggest that the moving the municipal goals, and my computer is 91% away from being updated. So it's going to be a while before I see my notes that I took on the surveys. Do you think procedurally, do you think we need to come back if we're acting by order tonight? So
Yeah,
my
we can have this, if we want to amend the order, we can do that when we get to the vote, I think. If you want to say, I would like to pass this with this amendment, that it's reordered, that would, I think, be an amendment to make.
Yeah, I don't want to wordsmith a survey by order that we vote on, that we have to vote on.
Yeah.
So I guess I would ask us, how do we consider, do we trust, I assume the NESIP will continue to administer or oversee this work, and just kind of approve the drafts tonight with the understanding that NESIP will make those kinds of accommodations without making material changes to the survey, but just sort of stylistic type things.
I think we can do that, Dan, and I also think it's possible, as I said, that there might be another change or something that needs to happen based on a consultant's information or change in town issues that are being dealt with. And I think it's very possible we just bring it back to a second vote for a final survey vote that's going out in August or something like that. Does that work?
That works.
Jacob? Yeah.
That's
Can
fine.
I-
Yeah.
I,
Go ahead.
I realize this is on the action items, but, and this is getting used to this whole new format, but this really feels to me like this is a presentation on 39 pages. I'm not sure why what is forcing this to be a vote this evening? That's the purpose of this process, to talk about things like Dan just brought up, and
Dan,
why are we so anxious to make this vote this evening instead of
Can I
let's
answer
take this feedback,
right.
let's go back.
Yeah.
and-
No,
yeah.
it's fine. What I wanted to say is it's only there in case we are ready to vote. If we're not, we just table those votes till next month. And we just put them there because part of the recommendations on efficiency was to always have the ability to vote if we're ready to vote. If we're not ready and folks want to table these till next month, that is 100% fine. 100%. Jacob, go ahead.
So, Dan, that's your point, is something I brought up at NECAP. And so is my understanding that if we decide to move forward, voting, that we would be voting on the overall concept, but then council would be able to provide suggestions so that the final drafts would come to the actual questions as is, would come back to the council. So that was my interpretation. I also agree with Leo that we shouldn't, that it seems to be voting this, it seems to be quick to be voting on this report, but we'll get to that when we actually come time to vote.
Okay,
We're almost there.
they're almost there.
Okay, if we scroll, the next vote that we'll be having whenever we have it is whether to hire any consultants to be involved in this survey process. So there are three possibilities, all of which are presented here. This seemed clear to the committee that this is not the kind of decision the committee wants to be making or should be making. This is a full council decision, how we proceed. But we have sort of compiled for you what we see as the three options. Option number one is that we take the draft survey we've created, we say we get it to the point where the council feels good about it, and we put it out ourselves. The town has SurveyMonkey as an account, which does a lot of data analysis on its own. It spits out graphs. We get bar graphs. We get, if you want word clouds for free-form answers, we can get those. Pretty much the same kind of data presentation that you can see in Dr. Berthelsel's report back from a year ago on the Town Manager Search Survey. All of those graphs are automatically created by SurveyMonkey. I think that Dr. Berthelsel made some of them in conversations with her perhaps slightly easier to read and follow. She did all of the narrative reports around it. But the graphs themselves, the data itself is there in SurveyMonkey. We could choose to do it on our own. That's option one. And you can see that we laid out what we see as advantages or disadvantages of that. Wait a second. Yeah, up there. Okay. So advantages are essentially this is free. Disadvantages are some counselor needs to take the time to be the point person who pastes and tells SurveyMonkey to send the data in a form. It definitely needs to be a counselor. It is confidential information, again, regarding our town manager. It should not be a staff person in that role. It needs to be a counselor who does that. So a counselor could volunteer to do that. And that is a choice. And the advantage is it's free. The disadvantage is, you know, counselors have to take the time to do it, and we are certainly not experts in that. NECAP is not recommending this option primarily because we felt that having, as you go to option two, having our human resources consultant take a look at the survey seemed important enough to us to be worth the cost. It's a $200 an hour charge. The estimate was that it would probably not take more than an hour or two. So to look over the surveys for us and flag anything that seemed problematic in either the surveys themselves or the scheduled process. So that is a $400 maximum cost. And our town manager has indicated that it's highly likely that there would be enough hours left on the existing contract with our current human resources consultant that it might not even require any additional money, but might be able to come out of the existing contract. So we felt for that low cost, it is worth our time to have our human resources person look at it and be sure it's human resources wise exactly where we want it to be. The third option would be to both hire the human resources person to do that short consult and in addition hire a data analyst to be the point person for the survey, answer questions if anyone in the community had problems accessing it, having it work, and also present the final data, doing that pasting out of SurveyMonkey and adding in, you know, the sort of written report around that we had received. In the last one from Dr. Berthesel, there are two different quotes for that, and we will talk in a minute about the different prices because we got data from two consultants. We approached three consultants and one declined to respond. So we can talk about that in the next part, but the three options before council are, do we want to run this 100% ourselves without even using our human resources consultant to give it a careful look at, or would we like to do the human resource consultant looking at it to give us that is option two, her opinion and consult. And number three is both a human resources consult and a data analysis consult, which could range anywhere from $600 to $2,500, depending on which consultant option you went with. Is that clear? Sorry, I don't know.
You say this committee is recommending one of these or no? I thought I just heard you say you're not recommending one. Is that
right? We felt as a committee, as a group, we were in consensus that we did not recommend option one because the cost of the human resources consultant is very low and the benefit to us seemed high of being sure that a human resources person had looked at it to be sure all personnel policy rules and laws and confidentiality and all of that are being followed the way that, you know, she would want it to be.
I personally, this is the first time we'll be doing this, and so we're going to have to adjust as we move forward. I think the option 2 sounds like a really great option to me. One, because it doesn't use a lot of resources. 2, it gives us some consulting and allows us to somebody outside to say, yeah, this is a problem. You guys got to throw it out or whatever. So we're not just running off amok on our own to start with, and then we can reassess the next survey that comes up the next year and see if we need additional resources or whether that was just right or maybe even less resources. That's my feeling.
I'm between 1 and 2. I probably lean more towards 1. I think given what the school has done, and they've done it on their own for 5 years. I did reach out to the superintendent, I mean to the chair, to ask what sort of response rates they've seen, and they were between 65 and 75. And I think I think we may have better results. I don't know. I don't think they had really much of any community involvement. It's more parents and staff. We may have a better access to community, so we might get a better involvement, maybe 2 or 300 if we're lucky. But I think I don't feel like we're going to be putting ourselves in a precarious position I think we're not going to be going that deep, and they're just questions being asked. It's private information that comes back. I don't feel like there's like exposure here. If there were, then, maybe we probably shouldn't be doing it. But the fact that they've done it, I lean more towards the first option. Could probably live with a second option just for a set of eyes, but that's where I stand.
Thanks. Anybody else have questions on this one or comments?
So as long as everybody's jumping in, I am leaning towards 2. I think that, like Matt said, it's a relatively nominal cost for some safety. However, I will point out in that voting for number 2 and not hiring an outside consultant, I'm doing that from a fiscal position, but I also realize that by voting to not retain a consultant to review the data, to analyze the data, that I am, signing up for myself or one of us to analyze the data. I'm comfortable doing that to save us the money, but I think that needs to be something we all understand. Again, I'm comfortable doing that to save us the money, but that needs to be something understood.
Thanks, Jacob. I think that's important. And I think if we do that option, we need to be clear that, we are not doing a deep data analysis. We're looking at the graphs that SurveyMonkey spits out and tells us how many people gave this answer. They're Likert scale questions, 1 to 7. If anyone's listening and hasn't seen them, there are numbered questions. So it's fairly simple data to see, did more people answer, 3 or 7, on the number scale on those questions. And then the free form questions, I believe we would just read those as a council all the way through and read everybody's responses and, consider them in our own minds. There's no way to quantify those anyhow.
So we'll be looking to make amendments to order 2542 when we get to that point in terms of what the preferences are.
Right. When we get there, someone
Or
will
we
need to
could
make an
table
amendment
it.
saying, I'm recommending that we hire this consultant or we don't.
Okay.
That's great. So finally, we're up to the 6th vote. Whenever we have that vote, if we chose to hire a data analyst as well as a human resources consultant. And I want to reiterate that both of these companies or individuals were well recommended to us, excellent expertise. They would, in addition to analyzing the data, be the point person. So when people in the community had questions about a survey or filled out one on paper at the library, these people would type the data in instead of whoever on council had volunteered to do it. The fees are different depending on which consultant you went with. One is significantly cheaper than the other. Also, there was a slight difference in fee if we wanted them to come present. I don't have a lot of opinions about a lot, but I don't personally feel the need to have a big presentation on this from them. I feel like it's going to be simple enough that I wouldn't need that, but I'll be quiet here. If anyone has questions about these financial figures from the 2 consultants or the different options that exist for each consultant, please ask me.
Okay. Is there anything else in terms of question? Okay, any questions there? Then Council Marks has one more item on for this presentation.
I don't want to skip this part at the very, very end. It's important how this is going to be paid for if we went with any of these options that have cost. And I just wanted to be clear that there is money in the budget for this already, according to our town manager. Again, the human resources consultant, there might be hours available still on that line. And if not, these are the 3 lines our town manager highlighted, which have existing funds that could be used to pay for this process and rolled into next year's budget if we chose to do these more options that have cost. Does that make sense?
It does. And appreciate the work that's gone into it by the committee and the time the council is devoted to this discussion. This is, we're developing a new processes, so that it takes time and to learn about it, improve upon it, and implement it. So thank you for all the energy that's gone into it so far. It's a very good presentation.
Just wanted to bring up one other thing. If we do decide when we get to the votes, we can to table everything, that is 100% fine. I did also want to highlight, and as I looked at it, I do think there's also an option to consider deciding now that at the minimum, we want the human resources consultant, if we're there as a council. And if that's the case, we could even get that human resources consultant look-see done before potentially it came back to us next month. Does that make sense to everyone or not? Okay, the vote number 5, if we chose to hire the human resources consultant, Lori Boucher, who's already working with our town on other issues, if we chose to hire her right there to take a quick look through the draft surveys and the schedule process we've developed and flag for us if she sees any problem areas. It occurred to me earlier today that we could, if council's at a point where we're ready to know we want to do at least that much, we could make that vote tonight. And I think it might be possible that she might even do that work and look at it before council met in March to re-vote on this, and we would have that information. So I'm just putting that out. We don't need to do it. I just wanted to flag that it's a possibility.
And just to go back up to,
It's on the screen, Leo.
oh, but I want to scroll.
Oh, sorry.
Just go back up to the timeline. This, we're talking about and this going out in October. Is that right?
The first survey would go out September 1st.
September.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it's summertime is quiet time also, you know, for
Mhm.
staff in August a lot. So I would want us to be done with having this process designed in July.
I appreciate that point about doing it. I don't, again, I guess I would think that if we do end up waiting, that could wait as well personally, but I appreciate the idea of jumping ahead, getting on top of that.
Okay, that concludes the presentation. Well, maybe it does. Well, in the action items that have come, before we conclude the presentation, on the action items that have come before us are orders 25 through 37 through orders 2542, all relate back to this presentation. There are a couple of them that I think are just, we will proceed through this in the order that they're on the agenda. There are a couple of these things that seem to be more timely in terms of us addressing them, and other things that could be tabled. So I guess I would suggest as we take those on, when we get to them in the agenda and we open it up for discussion on the specific orders and invite public conversation or comment on the orders, we keep that in mind. So I guess I'll end that observation to add that observation to end the presentation discussion item. Item number 6 is acknowledgement by councilor members, and we'll start with the Councilor Hardison end of the table and move our way to the right, and I will go last this time, again, as I always do.
I have a few things. I just wanted, probably Matt going to take this from you, but remind everybody that we have potluck on Sunday, and I've been the last 2 months, and it really is a good time to get together and meet people that you don't know, share ideas, and just get together. I also want to thank Bill's team for all of the hard work. There's been a lot of storms. We've got more storms coming. And I just want to kind of make a plea to residents. If you have a sidewalk and you have time and ability, clear it out for them. If you have a fire hydrant near your house, clear that out too. It just helps the fire department and public works with getting to your area and certain needs that people walking by or living near you need.
Councilor Marks.
I just wanted to, I guess, proactively thank all the staff that have been getting this next vote set up for tomorrow. And it's a ton of work every time they do that. This is an extra one this year and very, very grateful for that.
Councilor Kenny.
Yes, I want to acknowledge the Orono Red Riots varsity basketball team for their runner-up, Northern Maine runner-up, 40-41. Very tight game last Friday against a good Caribou team. So I want to acknowledge that accomplishment.
Councilor Powers.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the great work by the Nordic ski team at the States this last week, and especially to Clara White, who won every single event that she was in for the women, and handily. So thank you. And she's an even better person than she is a skier. So thank you.
Councilor Baker.
So, Councilor Demerit, you obviously missed my wink, wink, nod, nod to start from this end of the table, so that Leo didn't get the jump on me.
Oh,
But
sorry.
yes, the basketball team had another amazing year. Kudos to them, and tough way for the seniors to go out, but still had an amazing season. But then also to Bill and Public Works, or Public Works, we're not allowed to state staff, but thank you guys for all you've done. It was a tough couple of weeks with a couple inches of snow almost every single day, so the guys probably didn't get a lot of sleep.
Well, I'm sure they got the state mandated rest time that was required.
Outside of what OSHA requires, of
Yeah.
course.
Safety first. Yep. Thank you. And I, in keeping with the snow and tending to the snow, I'll Orono Land Trust. I mean, someone grooms the trails, and I don't think it's the Public Works Department, but and I'm sure it's not a model we want to move towards our main streets and sidewalks, but someone's out there grooming those trails, at least around my house, and it's just phenomenal. It's actually to be able to get into the woods right after it snowed, and so thank you to the great work that so many people do to maintain our outdoor access to even in the wintertime. Okay, that concludes acknowledgements, and we'll move next to the consent agenda. This is an opportunity for us to act on items in block without discussion, and any member of the public or any member of the council can request that any of the items that follow be removed from the consent agenda and be acted upon as action items. Are there any requests to pull anything off the consent agenda? Okay. With that, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and second. All those in favor? Yep. Those were approved unanimously. Thank you. Move on to the action items. Excuse me. We will, some of this will sound familiar based on the presentation we had under item 5, but we'll start with a request, a motion to put order 2537 on the table, accepting the nominations, evaluations, and council policy committees proposed schedule and process for town manager and town council, 360-degree performance surveys, and town manager evaluation.
Moved.
I don't know procedurally, but I was going to motion for all of these to be tabled until the next meeting.
Got to
to
do them
give-
one at a time at this point, I think, procedurally.
Okay, then the first one I moved to table it.
Okay, we got to get it on, we got to get it on the,
First, have a
Oh,
second.
okay.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded. And I would just caution that the tabling motion is not debatable, right? Is that right? Okay. Could we talk for a minute before we table?
Do we need a second on the table also? Did we get that?
We have not entertained a tabling motion as of yet. Right now, it's on the table for discussion.
So I guess one of the things I think that gets cut out when we do it in this fashion is that there's no opportunity for public feedback. So I think I know we're not talking about the tabling motion, but that's another reason I think it would be a good idea after that wonderful presentation to allow community to give us feedback. So I'm going to be in favor of tabling all of these. So.
Okay. And to that end, though, we do, whenever we offer one of these, we get to an action item, it's supposed to get on the table, then staff or council are supposed to do a presentation, and we open it up for public comment, and then we turn it back to council discussion. So I guess I'm going to ask if there's any public comment at this point. Cody's not seeing anything. None of those hands are going up online. Okay. Okay. Any additional council discussion? Okay, I guess I would entertain a motion we'd have to move ahead with a vote, or now would be the time if you want to move the table.
So yes, I will motion to table until the next meeting, providing opportunity for public, other counselors to digest, this report.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling this to the next meeting? Yep. Okay. All those opposed? So was it 4-2? 4-2, so we'll table this to the next meeting. I'll take a motion to put order 2538 on before us
So moved.
Second.
and seconded. Okay, any presentation from the committee or staff? Any comments from the public? Any comments from council? I'm going to vote against the ones that I think we could act on tonight. I feel pretty comfortable we could act on tonight, but I completely understand people wanting to table these, and I will vote to table some of them as well. So, all right, is there a motion?
Motion to table this. I think that process wise, we either do all or none.
Okay,
Second.
we're kind of giving Council Baker a little leeway on the discussion, tabling motion not being open to discussion.
Oh, am I not allowed to say my reason?
I don't, I mean,
I won't if I,
yeah,
yeah,
just go
I
ahead
want to
and
make sure
table
I'm
it.
following process
just
here.
go ahead and table it. I don't know if
Okay.
the Robert Rule police are not here and we don't, so, but good. All right, this has been a motion to table. All those in favor of tabling order 2538? Okay, all those opposed? Yeah, it was 4-2 passes. I take a motion to put order 2539 on the table before the council.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any presentation from the committee or staff? Yep. Any comments from the public? Okay, can I get a motion?
Move to table.
Okay. I'll second this one. And all those in favor of tabling order 2539?
Dan, can I just clarify? We're tabling all these till our next meeting, correct? We're tabling them definitely, not indefinitely,
They've
with a
been
date of our
tabled
next meeting.
indefinitely. They've been tabled indefinitely at this
The
point.
next meeting.
Did we get a next meeting?
Yeah, my
said-
intention
yeah.
is everything until the next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'm comfortable if there's a date.
okay. Are we in agreement? Just shake, nod of heads that we're in agreement. We're on record that the prior ones were until the next meeting, and we'll articulate that very clearly. I know, right? Just all right, so order 2539, there's a motion before us to table this. Did we vote? Yep.
Yes, we did.
Let's vote. All those in favor of tabling, just to reiterate, all those in favor of tabling order 2539 to our next council meeting? That's unanimous. Okay. 6-0. Order 2540, could we get a motion
So moved.
moved and seconded? That's an order accepting the
Second.
draft town manager 360-degree performance survey proposed by the Nominations Evaluation Council Policies Committee. Any presentation from staff or the committee? Any comments from the public?
Move to table until the next meeting.
Seconded.
All those in favor of tabling order 2540 until the next council meeting? Good, that's unanimous. Order 2541. Did someone put it on the table?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That's an order 2541, an order confirming the town manager's recommendation for Lori Bouchard LLC to review the proposed town manager, town council 360 performance elevation evaluation process. Any discussion from the committee or staff? Yep, Council Marks?
I'm just going to reiterate again that I think I'm in favor of taking a vote on this one, whether we're ready to do it right now or not. But that's just me. But I feel like if we did it and there were any changes, then those could be brought back to the next meeting. And when we vote on our draft surveys and process, we might be sure that they're exactly how we want them. Thanks.
Any comments from the public?
Can I just, so when if it, without doing that, if it comes back, we're voting on draft surveys, then we vote also to hire, if we're hiring the consultant, the drafts can obviously be updated at that point as well, correct?
Yes, they definitely can. Yes, Leo, they definitely can be. It's not that they can't be. I just thought it might be a simpler process if we got that feedback early and by the time we took our first vote, it had already been looked at. But it's not required. We can adjust them later. They're drafts.
Good. I think I'm gonna vote in favor of the recommendation because I do think it would be important, good feedback, and it could be useful if it comes, particularly if it could be done in the next couple of weeks, it'd be useful for our discussion when we return to these items that we've been tabling today. And what was the dollar amount? A couple hours, you thought?
The fee is $200 an hour, and the estimate from our town manager was he thought it would be an hour or two of time.
Okay.
So let
Within
me get-
budgeted resources.
Let me just make
Yep.
sure I've got this all clear. So if we vote for this, then this draft that we have, we'll send to her and then she'll give us recommendations about whether to change it or not next time. Oh, okay. I'm in favor of that.
I guess my hesitation to that, and I mean, I'm in favor of doing this 360 for at least this first year. It's part of Clint's contract. It'll be a good trial run, but I guess my concern with doing it the way that's suggested is that we're voting to spend money on something that hasn't been approved yet.
Well, I guess we're voting to spend money to have the draft looked at. We're not voting to do the process, right? We're voting to spend money to get the drafts looked at.
But if this ultimately gets voted down, which I honestly don't think it will, but if it does, then we've spent that money with.
Okay. Any other comment?
Don't we have, was it in the presentation, there a comment about there already being billable or hours to use on the current?
Our town manager indicated he thought it likely that there still were hours that could cover this, but I can't say that for sure. So it could be potentially up to the 400.
Okay. We've got a motion on the table. Order 2541, confirming the town manager's recommendation for Lori Bouchard to review the proposed town manager, town council 360 performance surveys and evaluation process. All those in favor? Good. All those opposed? Yeah, it passes 4-2 with Councilor Baker and Councilor Kenny being opposed. Okay, next up we have order 2542. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, order authorizing the town council chair to execute an agreement with a consultant to conduct data analysis and collection of surveys for the town manager and town council 360-degree performance surveys. Could we get any presentation from staff or the committee? No, nothing? Any comments from the public? Yep. I would say this might be one of the ones
Definitely.
that it makes sense to, well, we can table everything in the next meeting and then we may be able to table it again or not. We cannot bring it off the table. And I mean, it'll be on the agenda, but someone will still have to move to bring it off the table.
Yeah,
So-
and it would also have to be amended to say which consultant, if that decision was made that there was a consultant we wanted to hire.
So could it also be tabled indefinitely and then it's
It
done?
absolutely could, or it could just be voted down to not do it.
We'll have a date certain if we do.
So that's another option. This could be voted down, this could be voted up or down right now. If it,
Just as far as tabling is concerned, once it's tabled, it can always be brought off the table. There's really no indefinite
There isn't.
tabling, like you can't put it in that special box. At any
Oh,
point,
okay.
somebody could bring it back regardless of what you've.
Oh.
So next meeting, you can bring all these back and somebody
Okay.
can suggest to put them back on the table. So
The only thing is on our,
No,
So-
yeah.
sorry, the only thing is,
Like-
Mitch, if you, I think I'm on. Am I on? Okay.
Shouldn't-
I am on, I think.
Sorry.
Sorry. Thanks, Dan, but I'm good. I would note that on our agendas under tabled items, we have something that has been there, which I believe we were told from staff, but it says indefinitely tabled items have a 90-day limit. So they don't disappear after 90 days?
So yes, what I'm suggesting though is once you've tabled an item, you can bring them back. After that 90 days, you would just bring an order back that was similar or
Just
the
bring a
same
new order that
order
had the
back.
similar
But
language.
What I'm suggesting is it's not, by you tabling it doesn't mean it disappears. That's all.
I really believe we should vote no. If we don't want to hire a consultant, we should say no. So that was my point. Thanks, Mitch, for clarifying.
All right, I guess I would entertain, if there's no other discussion, I'd entertain a tabling motion from the side of the table that's been doing that. Come on. Nail it.
Motion to table until the next meeting.
Second,
Moved and seconded in order to, and not open to discussion, in order to table 2542 until the next council meeting. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, 6-0. That completes that, and I do, we just did a lot of work, and I apologize to anyone watching at home or in the audience who thought it was a little unwieldy, but I think it's good work, and it's a combination of our committee process and our interest in doing things in a more expedited fashion when we can, but also stepping back and recognizing we need more time sometimes. Okay. Could we have someone put order 2543 on the table as an order assigning the Community Development Committee to discuss Orono Festival Days and setting the date of March 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for an Orono Festival Days workshop?
So moved.
second.
Moved and seconded. Any members of the committee want to talk about that? Nat or Andrea or me or?
I guess, yeah, there's been, a pretty broad, spectrum of people who are interested in restarting the Orono Festival Days for a fall festival that would be both family friendly and hopefully would attract, maybe college students to downtown or some combination of it. But we'd like to hear more, input from members of the community as we make recommendations, right? Going forward. And so there will be a meeting on the 18th, March 18th. So everybody can come and give us some input as to what they would like to see on the Orono Festival Days. Could you please add some more, Dan? Is there anything?
I'd be happy to, Matt.
Please.
Thank you for asking. So this is one of our council goals to, council goal number bullet 3, I suppose, is enhance and expand community events and engagement. If you go back to the long version of that goal, it articulates our desire to reestablish the Orono Festival Days and have a presentation in time for the budget. So this year's budget, so there'll be resources to help support that. We will have, we invite the community, council members, staff have been, a member of the staff will be with us to help us. Megan Masala with Parks and Recreation is going to be there to help us have the conversation. We scheduled this around both the planning board meeting. We would be mindful that it is it's going to be in the it would be in, if this goes forward, it'll be in the Observer, an invitation for the community to come participate in the conversation. And I think it really shows people, this is a good example of us acting on one of our goals. So that's all I have. Any other discussion or questions? Any comments from the public? Darren? If you could please introduce yourself, given.
Hi, I'm Darren Martone. I'm just having a question. Is this supposed to be on March 18th? Is that what you guys said earlier?
I believe so, yes. You have a question about March 18th?
It is just the start of the university spring break. So if you would like, you might not get the student input that you want. If
Right.
It's the start of spring break. It's not like, yeah. Yes, it starts.
Isn't that a Tuesday?
I'm looking at the University of Maine website right now. Spring
Yeah.
break is from March 17th to the 21st.
We'll have to
I
accommodate.
think the students should be accommodated. Yeah. Listen,
Well,
I
just-
don't like adding more levels of extensions than is necessary, but if one of the whole points is to get student engagement and involvement, I'm sorry, I think it does.
Yeah, no. I can't get online, so I can't access the calendar. And I'm not sure.
I personally agree with Counselor Baker on this one. And if we can make it work, I would.
I I guess, can we just amend the order to say we approve the referral and you all? can
Well,
work
no,
with
we
it?
have to call a meeting.
Oh, procedurally, okay.
Can we pick the next week?
I think we have to work with staff to make sure the staff's available for the next week. And has the Observer gone to print? Cody? Is tomorrow morning soon enough if we pull the date? If we, you think so, or you certain you can? Okay. I think we can, but it's gonna be. We are checking schedules for alternative date.
The
And
following,
Conversely, I know that committee member or the committee meetings don't typically have a back and forth Zoom option, but is there a way to provide one for this meeting to allow any students who are out of town to participate?
I think I think this workshop is the first in a series of conversations we're gonna have. And I think when we talk with students, I think there'll be, I imagine, speaking from my perspective, there'd be a concerted effort to reach out to student leaders and probably take the show to them. And, we met with, some of us met with, or Matt and I met with, and Clint met with the student affairs team earlier in the year. We've gone to the Wilson Center. I think we'd probably end up repeating a similar engagement. So for me, I think, and with all, understanding the spring break challenge, and I appreciate Darren bringing it up with us, I think it makes sense to just go with the one we have scheduled and then make a real effort to make sure my thought was kind of get people who've been involved in the festival in the past, staff, start the conversation, and then find ways to hear from and engage with students in other discussions as well. We're not deciding everything with this meeting. We're kicking it off. But so I'm gonna vote that we stick with the date that we have. It's set to go out in the Observer, and if we need to change, and we can certainly do more engagement in addition to this one workshop.
Did we know if the following Tuesday, a week from then, is a possibility, which is March 25th?
so the council chambers is available. I'm not sure about staff availability. I don't have all that sitting on my phone. One of the other things that maybe is a possibility is, as we think about what the workshop's going to look like, what types of questions you're going to ask people, maybe we can get that early and send it out in the form as a survey to the student affairs folks or some of the students, just to get some feedback as part of that conversation.
I agree. Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay. So all those in favor of Order 2543, assigning the Community Development Committee to discuss Orono Festival Days and setting the date of March 18th, 2025, 6 p.m. for a Orono Festival Days workshop. All those in favor? 3, 4, 4 to all those opposed? 4 to 2 passes with Councilor Powers and Councilor Marks in opposition. You're still going to come though, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll come. I'll see what I can do to, I'm going to reach out to, we'll try and reach
Yeah.
out to a number of student organizations before we go.
Okay. Order 2544 is an order accepting the recommendations from the Community Development Committee on the Neighborhood Noise Ordinance Review. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion.
And second? Okay, in terms of presentation, Matt, you want me to? Yes. Okay, so in our last meeting, we had a presentation of our findings and including this report, which I cannot access because I can't get online. You have it with you? Thank you. No, I got it. Thanks. So this was, we developed this this motion is acknowledging the work that the Community Development Committee did. We do have some recommendations that follow, but it is not, in my view, in order accepting this report is not endorsing all the recommendations. Those will have to come forward as separate items as part of our work as a council. So this acknowledges the work and takes it off our immediate agenda in terms of a report back. It's a chance for learning for people. Happy to answer questions from anybody about what we've presented so far. And then we'll work with the council leadership team to put items on the agenda that may, based on the recommendations coming out of the report.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say a couple of things. So this was spearheaded by Dan through communication with people, and he did the report work. He did all of the like looking back at the different police reports and also the neighborhood reports, and he was able to put this into this report, which it is a very good document if you're interested in a little bit of the history of all these things going on. And it was his project that he spearheaded, and with in consultation with a wide variety of staff members and other people on the council. And I just want to thank him for all that, because that was a lot of work.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah. Council Marks?
Yeah, I really appreciate. I know I live in the Webster neighborhood. A lot of folks have these kinds of concerns. I appreciated quite a few things about it, and I think your committee did great work. I wondered if it was possible for you to articulate a little bit more for us and for the community about what's in our noise and disorderly property ordinances now. I know there's links here, but could someone give a succinct summary? Because I think part of the confusion for people has been not being clear that there are consequences ever for these things happening. So I guess I would appreciate some feedback from this committee who did all this work about, the gist of how these ordinances work and what happens on your first noise complaint, what happens on your second, what happens on your third at the same property. How does that actually work?
I'm not prepared to walk you through those ordinances one by one at this point. We did have a briefing from it's online. We had a briefing with the police chief about what the ordinances are, how they work, what their experiences are with them. But I'm not prepared to, I'd be clicking these links and following along with you as well. So
is it possible for the link to whatever meeting you all had a presentation about those to be linked to this agenda, so that if those meetings are recorded, correct, your meetings? So if folks in the community did want a primer on what those ordinances say, could that link be put in our agenda?
Yeah, I think those meetings are on the council YouTube page, the Town of Orono YouTube page, and people are free to use these dates as references and go find them.
Yeah.
We could, are you asking for the minutes?
No, I was wondering, because I don't know which of these minutes you guys discussed this on, and if you guys know which meeting, it would help people not
if the minutes
to
could
watch
reflect, if the minutes could reflect that the December 5th, 2024 meeting of the Community Development Committee included Chief Merrill and Mitch Stone, where we discussed the data. That'd be my starting point for anybody who has further questions about the process and the experiences behind the data that's included in this report.
That would be so great, because I think it goes towards some of your recommendations about just that perhaps the community isn't fully aware of what is happening. So just putting that in, I think, would be one step toward one of those recommendations. And I wanted to highlight that. I know we're not talking about accepting them now, just the report, not moving on them, but I did really appreciate that there are some recommendations at the end of this report of some expedited review things we could look at. And I would hope that we are, as a council, are going to set some kind of date for ourselves to cycle back to some of these recommendations, because I do think people in the communities would like us to take a look at some of these recommendations and take some of these steps potentially. So I guess that's my other question. Do we have a sense of what is a timeline by which, and who would bring that back at this point? Would this same committee bring back to us, okay, here's what an expedited review process would look like? Or I don't know. There are some recommendations here at the end. I'd like to understand better, if we're not voting now, to accept them as things we should do, when we should expect to see something more come back to us.
Okay. I'm going to hold on that for a second to see if there's any public comment on this before we.
Can I still have
Yeah,
some?
sure. No, we're going to definitely come back to council discussion, but I'm trying to get in the cadence of, somebody who knowledgeable presents the item, we open it up to public discussion, and then the council decides, and we we kind of,
My apologies, Dan.
That's
That's
okay.
me.
No, I do
That's
the
on
same
me.
thing.
My
no,
apologies.
we are very conversational in our approach, and I just, and I like that about us. So,
That is a reversal to how we've done it in the past.
yeah,
In the past, council discussed it and then we've opened it up.
We didn't change that as part of any of the kneecap recommendations or anything else. It was already that way in our agendas, Leo. We might not have been doing it, but it was already that way in our process. We didn't make any change to that this fall.
yeah, like
Okay.
I would, yeah, and just, I think we're just emphasizing it more,
Hmm.
to make sure, and in our public comment section, we make it clear that people can speak about any item, the charter, I think it's in the charter, makes it clear that someone can speak on any agenda item that's up before the council. So I think we're just, if anything, maybe we're just emphasizing it more, but the order should go, staff or committee presents the topic. We ask the public if they have any thoughts on it, and then, because I don't want to prejudice public comment by us spending 10 or 15 minutes on something, and then, oh, by the way, you want to, now that we've essentially decided what we're going to do, do you want to?
Yeah, for some reason, I distinctly remember it being the opposite way and less about prejudicing the public, more so allowing the public to hear what we're thinking and then weighing in their opinion. And I guess,
Yeah.
I don't know, 6-1 I don't know which is better, but
I
I guess.
I
as long
take
as
that,
they have-
yeah, I definitely take that point. But hearing that we didn't have any public comment, do we have any more council discussion?
I do, yeah. I read the report and watched the meeting and appreciate all the work that went into it. But I gotta say, I kept hearing this approach of we've got to be educating neighbors on, we got to be educating on neighborhood expectations. We have to inform tenants of clear behavioral expectations. Things like that being said to me, when you say that out loud, it feels to me like we are calling out a specific class of citizens, be it renters, be it students. I don't know, but I know when if you've bought in a house, nobody's showed up to give you what the expectations are for how you should behave in your home. And I feel like we're on a slippery slope even just by speaking this way, saying, okay, we need to. Now, that said, I rent apartments and I talk to my tenants that I'm going to rent to and say, rule number 1, be a good neighbor. So I do that, but I feel like for the town to say we have to educate people about what neighborhood expectations are feels like we're overstepping what we should be doing to me. Does that make sense? I mean, do you,
Yeah.
can you see where that's separate? I mean, we're not doing that to homeowners. We're doing that to renters. And that's creating this class of people that now we are suggesting we're going to tell how to behave. And that,
Yeah, we also have, I mean, but we also zone our community that in a way kind of segregates. I mean, if we changed Orono tomorrow, if we could snap our fingers tomorrow and Mitch, this is a tough order for your office, right? But I mean, if we could snap our fingers and tomorrow everybody was in compliance with the zones that they lived in, we've got we kind of segregate our community based on our zoning where we have, the medium density residential. I mean, it's supposed to be your primary residential homeowners in those parts of town, and we have properties that are non-conforming. So I think that's kind of it's acknowledgement that we have, over time we've developed this parts of town that are more designed towards residential neighborhoods and residential living, and parts that aren't. And there's an inherent back and forth with those uses, and it creates some conflict that neighbors have expressed concerns about, and it's something that's been discussed for years and long before my service on the council or my residency in Orono. So I take your point. I mean, but it's a fact of life in a college town and in a town with so much transience.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, I guess, the overarching reality is it is a fact of life in a college town. But I mean, it feels discriminatory to me when you start segregating out a group of people that you're going to tell how to behave living in their apartments. To me, again, it feels a little discriminatory and I question the language of using that. I did have a question because about the non-conforming, because there are like specific recommendations about non-conforming that I couldn't understand from the data why those were being singled out. I don't know if I can hone in on that any further. What is the recommendation?
Yeah, council should also explore a new requirement that non-conforming properties make extra efforts to post or share information in their leases and at their properties, informing tenants that they are living in residential neighborhoods with clear behavior expectations. The new comprehensive plan would, well, that's where that ends.
So, yeah, and there's 40 non-conforming properties, non-conforming because of number of units, 7 properties, unrelated persons, 33. I don't know what number of units. Do you know what that is? Like, what's non-conforming as far as number of units? There are 7 properties.
Is it 5 or more, Mitch?
Depending upon the zone, that's what it is. It's properties that were grandfathered in, so they existed prior to the zoning got put in place, and whatever that zone, depending upon where it is, doesn't allow. So those are all of our properties in town. Those are the number of them that are non-conforming based on the number of units for that zone wherever they exist. So it just depends on where it is.
And I get the, at one point we changed from no more than 3 unrelated people. So that's the 33 unrelated persons one, except unless you're in the downtown district. But I didn't see anything from the data that called out those properties as being requiring special attention. But they've gotten a special
Right.
and recommendation in the end, but I don't see anything in the data that says, yeah, it's those unrelated properties that all, and again, I guess, and you did mention it in your presentation, but worth mentioning again, the numbers have all gone down in the last 3 years. So
Right.
there's progress being made. And I don't know what, if the goal is that there's never any complaints, that's probably not realistic, but
Yeah, but I think, conceptually, my goal, we heard from people that, I think there's some folks who'd like to see us do whatever we possibly can legally or financially to move non-conforming properties outside of our residential districts. And I think that's one extreme, which could involve, will we borrow $10 million to buy all these properties and convert them into something else? Or, there's that kind of, that kind of interest. And then on the other end, there's doing nothing and not being at all responsive. And this seemed like to us, we don't, or at least to me, but I think to the committee, we don't have an interest in Orono becoming a heavy-handed. We think if we have an opportunity I want to model, what I really want to do, Leo, I want to model the Andrea Hardison model where she goes and she changes cell phone numbers with the people that live on her street who are new to her community, new to the neighborhood. I want to create avenues where people can get to know each other and we can share information, like quiet hours. They start at, I don't want to say the wrong number, and I can't access the internet on my machine, but I think it's 11 p.m. is like, it's kind of when the noise ordinances kicks up another notch. And I don't think people know that. I don't think anybody knows that, whether you've got a 15-year mortgage at a fantastic rate like me, or whether you're renting an apartment from Leo Kenny. So
well, and I don't think, there's most of these recommendations I think are good, why not? I think, but if we're calling out these non-conforming, like there's something there, and I don't, the data doesn't prove that unless you have other data that does. So I don't like the idea of calling out
Leo,
non-conforming.
can I just ask a question? What data are you looking at? Are you looking at this box on the first page?
Yeah,
What data are you looking at?
That just,
Okay.
well, not the first page, but
Sorry, page 2.
page
The box
3.
at the bottom of page 2 is what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Page 3.
Page 3. No, that tells the unit. Sorry.
the bottom of page 2 has noise complaints
Yeah.
going back from 2019, 2024.
Right.
We do not dive into the, the
Right.
property level
Right.
area of complaint. It wasn't.
Right.
Yep.
I get that. That's the point. good news, it's going down. But in our recommendations, we call out non-conforming, like non-conforming is some kind of problem. I don't know that it is, maybe it is, but
So Leo, could we just, if we're going to move forward on further recommendations in the future, perhaps we can ask staff to give us the data on how many of those noise complaints are at non-conforming properties. I'm sure they know, they have the addresses. I would say in our neighborhood, and Andrew, you could speak to this case, I think most of them are from the non-conforming properties. I very rarely have heard any neighbor on the listserv talk about one that's anywhere else. It's possible, but I think if we just ask the staff for the data, they presumably have it, and we can ask for it at the next level if we're going to move forward with recommendations. I would also like to point out that I also think giving people information is not penalizing people. What actually happens is if you don't know this information and you violate the code, you start getting fees that plop down on you. So I see it more as a service to let people know that if they don't know these rules, then they break them, they have to pay money. So for me, if I were somebody there, I would want to know that what they were. Honestly, I'd like to know for everybody, and I'm sure we can put it in the Observer too in some short write-up so that it goes to everyone. But I think we can just get that data if it's the issue, Leo, for you moving forward. And I have one other thing I'd like to ask for if we move forward on this, Dan. Is this the time I could do this?
I guess, Leo, are you
Yeah.
done? Are you, yep, thank you. I do appreciate, I mean, I think those are good questions, and if we do bring something formal back on that, and we'll have to have more data involved, attached to it, but, okay, sir?
Yeah, I mean, my first thing is I would just like some sense of a timeline from council of when we want to circle back to this, because what I don't want to do to, especially neighborhoods that have kind of had this happen before, where it comes up for discussion, but then nothing actually happens or moves forward. I would like us as a council to really say, when are we coming back to this? Do we have a sense of that? And my second thing is, I would personally like just a short summary of what the financial penalties are, both for a resident who violates the noise ordinance. I can find them in the ordinance. I've scrolled, but they're short and they would be easy to put in our report saying, first violation, you pay this much, second one, you pay this much. And also for property owners, once your property is deemed a disorderly property, how much you pay. In a quick look on my own, these numbers seem low to me compared to every other university town I've lived in, and I'm not sure that they are enough of a deterrent to repeating a behavior. And I think once you get to your second and third warning, you've been warned. If you're continuing to do it, I'd be perfectly comfortable to see higher fees at that point.
So-
And I just want us to actually look at the actual financial consequences and hear from either the committee about that or staff. And also how long it takes for those to kick in. Because my understanding, and a much quicker read than you all did, it looks like a property can't become a disorderly property till quite a few complaints have happened. That basic reduction data, I would like us as a council to consider. If I 100% believe in warnings, but once you've been warned, I think the consequences need to be enough to deter people from repeating.
Council,
Just,
yep.
can I just comment about that, Sarah? As an apartment owner, you don't control you have limitations to what, so if you've got students that are, am I coming through on this thing? If you have students that are disorderly, you don't have any special method of making them stop. I think when this came out, a lot of landlords put something in the lease saying we're going to bill you for it. A lot of them have that. I think I have that in there, but you don't control, you don't have that level of control on a tenant.
Leo, I'm fine if we have this discussion at the council level and we decide that the numbers that should go up are the financial consequences to the person who made the noise violation, not the landlords. I don't care. I don't know yet where we should end up, but I do think we need to have a discussion about the size of the financial consequences and whether they are actually a deterrent. I don't think we should be having that now because we're not voting to move forward, but when we next come back, I want to talk about that. I look at the consequences and they're a fraction of what they were in the last college town I lived in. And it doesn't just happen to students. It happens to my friends. I mean, my friend got a one for his 50th birthday party. He was way too loud in his backyard and he got the warning. And then he had another party 3 months later and he was way too loud and he paid. So it's not about what demographic you belong to in town. It's just once you've been warned, if you keep being that loud, I think there need to be consequences that are big enough that people stop. Because I don't think it's fair to neighbors once a warning goes out and people continue to just repeat and repeat.
Councilor Hardison?
I think one of the things that we found too, and it could be that education language could be expanded to including residents. A lot of people didn't know, who do I call I've made this call, or it's just a group of people walking by and it's a time. Maybe it's not a property, it's just a time of night or time of day. And one of the things I think needs to be made more clear is who can the residents reach out to follow up on their complaint, or maybe they didn't find the need to call 911 or the non-emergency line, but who can they reach out to after the fact to say, we need help in our area?
Okay.
Just one more is just to put things into perspective here. 2022, there were it says two disorderly events. I don't know if that, and I don't know that that's a disorderly property, but obviously I think it's important that we would look at the number of disorderly property summons that have gone out. This says 2 in 22, 2 in 23, and 1 in 24. So is there an issue?
Yeah, it's,
I think the issue is the noise complaints, not the disorderlies, Leo.
But you were talking about fines for disorderly properties, and that's so.
There are fines for both, Leo. We have fines in our ordinances for noise violations also.
all right. So to sum this up, we spent a lot of time on our meeting 2 weeks ago. And to sum up, in terms of next steps, I'm going to suggest that the committee informally, Matt, put on our agenda at our next meeting, a chance to kind of revisit these recommendations and when we want to come back to council with some thoughts on, we're asking council to accept the work that we did, and we will come back. I suggest the committee will come back. I don't think we need an order for this. We don't have to refer this to the committee, but Matt, if you will put it on our agenda we'll have a conversation, come back with some thoughts on next steps. And some of these are coming up pretty close. The community policing enhancement education around the spring main day of 2025 is just couple months away, less than a couple months away. So if we're going to do something on that, it'll have to be pretty fast. And if we bring something back in terms of an ordinance change or some kind of requirement for landowners and property owners of non-conforming properties, we'll bring back more data with that. We'll dive in deeper with the staff than we did. You all know you serve on these committees. We're spending an hour together once a month as volunteers. So it's, there's limits to, and it takes a lot of time outside the committee meeting time to get these things together. So any more questions or discussions?
I just think to encourage more participation from residents in these neighborhoods that are having problems, find a way for us to encourage them to attend and let us know.
Yep. No, there's a lot of it. Yeah. There are concerns when there are concerns and they kind of fade away, and it's, left to these committees to, so we've got to, and if people want to see progress on things, they have to stick with it. Or it's pretty easy to fall off the top burner, as it were. Okay, we have a motion to accept this report. Without further questions or suggestions, we're going to vote on it. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some meetings, I think we're going to fly through it and get everybody out here early, and then
Mitch is slowing us down.
yeah, Clint takes a week off, and we encourage, hey, but take your time off, don't tune in, and we're going to be here until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. All right, which one are we on now? All right, we're gonna order. Can I get a motion to remove order to take
2534 off the table.
I'm still not seeing it. Where is it?
I make a motion to take order 2534 off the table.
That's governance for you, Jacob. Okay, can we get a second for that?
And
Okay, moved and seconded.
Yeah, first we have to take it off the table and then.
It's on the table.
All right. So now, okay, 2534 has been moved off the table. Oh, we have to vote on it. All those in favor? That's unanimous. We order 2534 Order assigning the ordinance review committee to review the town of Orono ordinances, chapter 30, solid waste. This was a referral that came to us designed, from Councilor Kenny. That's what put it on the agenda. And this would put this to the ordinance review committee, and we've got a meeting this Thursday where we're going to look at recommendations from staff on a schedule, a 3-year schedule to look at all of our ordinances. So this will be the chance to, if you, like me, think we ought to loosen up the length of the dog leash, or it's 8 feet. And so my retractable leash sometimes out of compliance. If I let my dog, it's a 24-footer. And if I let my dog outside off of the beyond 8 feet, I'm out of compliance.
Got some citizen tickets.
Yeah, please forward them. Yeah. I'm always at 8 feet. So any discussion, Councilor Kenny, you want to?
Yeah, just, so this is,
Don't we have to motion to,
We've taken it off the table, so it feels like it's on the table.
I think
Oh.
I think you need to have a motion on 2530. I don't know, maybe not, but I think so. Don't you, Amanda? Yeah.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
all right. So we've taken it off the table.
I make a motion to discuss it.
Let's discuss it. Is there a second? Thank you. Amanda seconds it.
So moved.
Yeah. You're an order.
Second, second.
Right? Okay. All those well, nope. Leo, you're going to discuss it. Then we're going to ask members of the public if they wanted to have any comment, and then council will discuss it. So Leo?
yes, so this stemmed from, we talked 2 weeks ago, or I don't know, 2 meetings ago, and then you talked last meeting about we're putting a recycle out at the dump. And this came up because currently we've got a limit of 4 units. If an apartment building with 4 units, that's the limit for where we pick up trash. And that limit was started back when anybody could wheel whatever trash they have out to the curb. When we've changed in 23 or 24, I actually thought it was 3 units, but apparently it was 4. So now we have this volume limit that we're accepting. Should I be pleading the case, or, I mean, I guess the main thing I'll keep talking. So now we have a volume limit. It's 4 apartments, so that means you can have 4 bins. And my suggestion, or why I would like to have this discussed at the subcommittee level, is if you have an apartment building with 4 units and 3 bedrooms, you've got 12 people living there, presumably. But you could have a 5 unit with all 1 bedrooms and only have 5 people, but you wouldn't be able to have trash pickup. Meanwhile, you could get away, you probably only need 2 bins. So now that we've changed how we're doing trash pickup and 4 bins is the limit, I think if you've got 6 or 7 units, but they're all 1 bedrooms and you can get by with 4 bins, 4 bins is now the limit. So why would we not allow that? Because that also, again, this sort of stemmed or came up in my mind from the conversation about we don't recycle at places where we don't pick up trash, we're not doing any recycling. So that was the initial thinking that would solve that, because a 5 unit or a 6 unit, 7 unit that only needs 4 bins, they'd recycle and they would have trash pickup. And so I'd like to have this referred to subcommittee to discuss this further.
Okay. Rob is the chair of that committee. I'm on the committee. We meet on Thursday. This coming Thursday is our next meeting. I'm in favor of, I'm in favor of the referral. Though I do think, when we're at the committee level, I think we'll have a discussion about where it fits within the recommendations that we've gotten from staff. We've gotten a very good, the town clerk's done a very good kind of recommendation for us to look at in terms of sequencing over the course of 3 years. So I think that'll be helpful. Jacob?
I guess my only hesitation with this, and if we want to send it to committee, that's fine, and it'll be fine. But this seems like something that goes against the kneecap recommendations, that if we want to change the ordinance, instead of sending it to committee, having a discussion, bringing that discussion back, creating an ordinance, why don't, if somebody feels strongly about it, work with staff, create an ordinance, and we can vote on it. It just seems simpler and more efficient to go that route than referring it to committee.
Okay, Councilor Marks?
I agree with Jacob on this one, that I guess I have a couple concerns. I think that the committee structure works well when we send things that need a really in-depth dive with lots of community input and council input. I'm not sure this meets that criteria. I feel like what I would like to see first would be some basic information from staff about how much extra this would cost us on our contract with Casella, because I assume it would have an added cost. And also, I guess my assumption was always that this policy wasn't about so much the number of apartments as once you hit a certain number, I think you're being treated as a business. You're a money-making business at that point. And I guess I figured if we did this, we should start giving recycling to all our businesses in town too, which we also don't do. So I guess conceptually for me, this is a cutoff which was meant to say, once you're renting more units than this, you're a business and you need to provide the same kind of services other businesses are providing on their own trash and recycling pickup. And more importantly, I think it would be an easy ask for staff to tell us, if we change this, how much more is that? Before we spend committee time looking further into it, the number may be high, and we may as a council say, forget it. Like, we're not interested in changing it. I'd rather see it come back as a council discussion and not refer to committee at this point. And yeah, I guess that's the main thing that I wanted to say about that.
So are you suggesting that it become request for additional information as opposed to a referral to a committee?
If the rest of council, I mean, I think generally we don't even ask staff for information or refer to committee unless a majority of council or a lot of members in the public have brought this forward. And so far, I hear Leo, it's important there, but I don't know if it's important to the rest of council. And I haven't heard from anybody in the community about this being a problem. So for me at this stage, all I'd be willing to do is ask staff for a quick, vague estimate of how much our Casella would go up before we had further discussion. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
In that information, if we could find out too, how it's enforced. I know we have to have our bins in by 11 o'clock the day after, but there's still quite a few bins that are left out. So how that enforcement would work or works now.
So I think I agree that's a potential, that's an issue, a current issue. I don't know that it is part of this discussion, to be honest. I mean, I think that's a whole separate sort of thing, I think, personally.
It might be, but I think if we're looking at 3 units, 4 units, 5 units, and we're wanting tenants to have access to bins to put them out, what we also need to consider the bringing it back in, where we've had so many complaints on sidewalks being blocked or bikeways.
Again, I agree. And actually I've put calls into neighbors that I know own apartments, and just to warn them that, hey, this is being discussed. You know, let whoever's taking care of your place know. So I think I agree it's an issue, but I just think it's a separate discussion, because you can't, you can't project if but I agree somewhat, Sarah, that I think it would be a good idea. I have no idea how many, and I don't know if staff would know how many units there are. I don't know how many units that would feel like they could partake. You know what I mean? So we don't know that, but I think, and again, I didn't want to put a bunch of work on staff either, but I think if that's probably a relatively easy request to find out if, I don't know. It's kind of a tough question to ask.
I think it's a hard thing to do, because once you hit 5 units, one year you might have 5 people in it and 4 bins is great, and the next year there's 10 people and they're getting down on the landlord saying we don't have enough bins, and the landlord's looking at them and saying, well, you can't have more bins because that's the ordinance. And then somebody else with 7 units is like, well, I've got all these like hippies in here and they don't do any trash, and they could do
Yeah.
2
Their
bins.
trash.
Like,
Right.
I think it becomes hard, and I think one of the reasons why we have a cutoff is because then it's just done, and then you're done, and then you're not trying to ask, well, what about this? What about that? What about if there's 7 people in this? What if there's
Yeah.
15 people who are in a 5-unit place that only has 1 bedroom, but that's just how they live?
But
Can
but
I
I
see
think
one
the-
thing?
the-
Second, a second. Go
it-
ahead, Leo.
it's limited by if it fits in 4, it fits in 4. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm not, yeah.
Councilor Marks?
I just want to clarify, I am not asking staff to do a person tally of who's in apartments. I was simply asking if we provided the same 4 bins max that we currently, or 3 bins max, which is it? We currently provide 4, I don't know. Up to 4. Okay, so if we just said that if we gave those same 4 bins to every rental place in town, regardless of whether they have 4 units or they have 10 units or they have 100 units, and irregardless of how many people are in those units, if we just gave them all 4 bins, how much does that put our cost up? I don't not want staff to waste time counting people and all that's way too complicated.
Can we agree that if there's some cutoff, it's 100 units we're not talking about?
Just, I just don't want this to go to committee. I feel like this committee has a more important task to really work on a overall schedule of ordinances. And I think this is a council issue first to decide if it's something that the whole council wants to refer to committee or not. For me, the only data I need is some estimate if we gave them to everybody, including if we gave them to businesses, because I think the assumption is that these are businesses once we begin renting this many apartments.
Right. And I don't know that that's an accurate assumption, Sarah, because if you have 4 units, you're making money presumably as well. So I don't think I think it was a volume reason why they didn't allow more than 4 units, just because they couldn't accommodate it. But now that's changed. So I don't know that's your assumption. I don't think it's accurate. I don't know. And I don't think we would probably, I don't know if that would have been expressed back when they were picking these numbers. Maybe it was, but I also don't want to force someone to go back through 20 years of meeting minutes. But
Okay. Is there anything else from anybody else? All right. So the order is Order 2534, order assigning the Ordinance Review Committee to review the Town of Orono Ordinances, Chapter 30, Solid Waste. All those in favor? It's 4 in favor, all those opposed? 2 opposed, so we'll take it up. We'll let Rob know he's got one more thing to do when we meet on Thursday. So we'll add this on our agenda. And I think Rob might have texted me. He's watching online. Hello, Rob. So he just got back to town. So, Rob this will be something we'll talk about on Thursday. Thanks for the text. I'm sorry to sidetrack us. I'm doing a lot of that tonight and I apologize. Order 2546. Could we have a motion to put that
Motion.
in order? Kip?
Second,
Moved and seconded. Order 2546, an order authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with the Cushman and Wakefield, Colorado-based Cushman and Wakefield of Colorado Incorporated, based on town staff's recommendation through the Town of Orono bidding process for the appraisal of 3 student resident housing complexes, the Avenue, the Reserve, and Orchard Trails, with funds from the FY25 operating budget. Mitch, you gonna kick this one off?
Yeah. So this is actually in response to, we had talked last year around a settlement agreement and looking at assessing all 3, getting appraisals for all 3 from an outside company. It's been since the reval, it's been 5 years, which is about the length of time in which you want to look at this. These are specialized properties that it probably makes sense for equitable reasons to do this. We had that discussion. We put out to bid an RFP looking for this. Like I said, there aren't a lot of companies that do this. We worked with our attorney to kind of target places along with anybody else that wanted to do that. They responded. They were the only one that's responded, but based on the information that they've got and their experience, and the recommendations that we have found, we feel like they'd be good. And we also felt like the cost was reasonable.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public before we have council discussion? Seeing none. Any council discussion? Yep. Let's see if we can get a unanimous vote on this one. All those in favor of order 2546? Okay. That passed unanimously. So when Mitch brings it up, it goes smoothly. Council committee reports. We'll move through these hopefully quickly. Council Powers, anything?
We're looking at working on Route 2 safety this next meeting, and then we have the meeting on the Fall Festival coming on the 18th.
That's when spring break starts, Matt?
That's when spring break starts. So
right.
please, if you're a college student, you can email me any of your suggestions.
We're going to work hard to overcome that and make sure people are engaged. Okay. Finance and Operations Committee.
Yeah. Clint has engaged an attorney to start drafting the MOU for the Boy Scouts building. More to come on that. Finance Committee is now reviewing financial statements on a monthly basis, and with a more detailed review on a quarterly basis. Moving forward, that will come to council. So we've already reviewed the first 6 months of the fiscal year. Questions have been answered, nothing significant to report, but expect that in May, Clint or me or whomever will bring the third quarter reports for a review by council and discussion.
Okay. No, thank you. Nominations, evaluations, and Council Policies Committee.
Absolutely nothing. We took all our time earlier.
Yeah, good. Ordinance Review Committee. I guess for Rob, we have a recommendation from staff. So this Thursday we'll be looking at recommendations from staff that we got from Shelley on a schedule of approval of ordinances, and we'll take up the referral that we just got from the council this evening. Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee.
Yeah, so one of the things that we are focused on right now is bringing students and the community together to try and make it a more cohesive community between students. And so we are currently working on a international film like festival type thing that would be at Webster Park. So we're looking into whether it's feasible to get those to get copyright permission to actually show those films to the public right here on Webster Park, and to bring the international students to talk about the movie, and then we can all watch it. And then we also are having outreach, since in our current climate, it's there's a lot of conflicting ideas of what DEIB is. And so part of that outreach is a book club by Summer Sunderland, and you can find out more information at the library. Hi.
You got to focus, Matt.
I'm trying. I'm getting a little myopic in my old age. I can be. All right.
Sorry, I know, right.
And then also as part of that, there is going to be an information meeting at the library on March 4th, and it'll be led by Anila Karunakar. Sorry. And so please, that'll be March 4th. It'll be, I think, 5:30, 5 or 5:30. You'll have to check on the library website. That movie is just about what is DIB, and it's a time to find out what it's about and also have a discussion. And we are working on a number of other projects. Some of them are in conjunction with a Ware Walk that will be in June. And we are also, we have made recommendations about that we've sent out both to the council and also to staff about how to incorporate DEIB maybe into our ongoing look at where we're going as a town in 10 years. And yeah, and then also we are going to be making recommendations on how to get the students in the town together for this fall festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And my focus comment was on the camera angle for whatever reason. Didn't have you locked in or zoomed in appropriately. For council chairs update, I'll share that Councilor Marks and I have a communication on the council goals. It'll be in the Orono Observer, the upcoming edition, and includes an invite to the March 18th workshop we're going to do on the Orono Festival Days. So you'll see that in the Observer, and we'll find ways to share that in other in other venues as well. And Matt, just to follow up on your report, in the consent agenda tonight, we welcomed or appointed 2 new members to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging Committee. I want to thank those members of the community, Anelia and Marina, for stepping up and serving. This is unfortunately a time where there's been some uncertainty and tumultuous rhetoric around that work, and I appreciate people stepping forward and being a part of it. So, okay. Town manager report.
Just a couple of quick things. The first one is March council meetings will start at 4 because to accommodate Ramadan. And just wanted to let everybody know that we were talking a lot about code enforcement and community development. We're having some turnover, and an individual's last day is tomorrow. So we need
Whose
people
last
to-
day? I'm sorry.
An individual's
Oh,
last
okay.
day is
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh, that's
staff
right.
member.
That's right. Yep.
And which we'll sorely miss, but we're really gonna work hard to try to keep going, but it's a big loss. And so be patient with our code enforcement office and our planning office during that time. Election tomorrow. I believe it's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. here. And the last one is just for information standpoint. If the trails by your house have been groomed, that's probably the Penobscot Valley Ski Club that has
Excellent.
done that through either agreements with the town or the land trust.
It's phenomenal work. My dog appreciates it, as do I. We do not, number 11 on our agenda this evening is public petitions. We do not have any. Anything down there? Okay.
No, just stay off the trails with your dogs, please. Just kidding.
Item, we refer to the ordinance committee. We talk about it there. Yeah. No public petitions. Number 12, future agenda items and council requests for supporting items. Does anyone have anything? I'll just say, the internet didn't work for me all night long, and it threw me off a little bit because I had several items that I'd planned to be able to refer to by link. So thank you to Amanda for the support, but maybe in terms of an item of concern, the public access didn't work tonight. Public comment, any final items for public comment?
I have a quick thing.
Yes.
One thing I've been working on and looking into is starting a program that connects elderly and disabled homebound people with groups who can come in and clear snow from their walkways, porches, decks, steps. So if you are a group that is interested in donating your time to help these, help clear the snow, please reach out and let me know. I have a few groups that I'm going to be emailing, have emailed. And it might not be something we can get started this winter, but maybe get it in progress for next winter.
Got 4 teenage boys will be excited to hear that they have an opportunity to, I tricked them into helping one of our neighbors last winter. It was pretty fun. Cody, I wanted to ask you I know you're not on mic, but we're on YouTube now, right? With these, is this going to be immediately available on YouTube? Okay, good. Thank you. So there was no public comment, and I guess we're at adjournment, still before 7 o'clock. Not bad. Okay, all those in favor, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.